Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Comic Source Podcast. I'm your host, Jace.
I'm Manny.
Good to have you back, Manny. Been a while.
Yeah, good to be back.
And if you're watching this on the YouTube, LRM YouTube channel, you'll see Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I think I warned everybody on the New Comics Wednesday episode that we would be talking about this in depth, in detail. Every week on Fridays, there will be a Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunter spotlight. We'll be talking about that week's issue, and it's off to a good start. So,
absolutely.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. If you are watching it on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. That great cover by Steve McNiven, which says "After Stephen Platt." Who is, or after S. Platt, Stephen Platt, who's an artist that was pretty popular in the 90s. And it's great. You know, it's Boba Fett in all his glory. Got Han Solo behind him in carbonite, big explosions and whatnot. A lot of detail in the Mandalorian armor of Boba Fett. And, you know, I talked a little bit on Wednesday about this, about how when you think about it, Boba Fett's appearances in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I don't even know if they add up to 5 minutes total screen time, but yet he, for some reason, somehow, some way, captured the imagination of Star Wars fans. He's one of the most popular, enduring characters, and so I'm not surprised to see Marvel do this. You know, hey, let's tell the story of what happens between the time Boba Fett leaves the Cloud City on Bespin, and, you know, in the movie canon, we don't see him again until he's standing in Jabba's palace. So what happened in the meantime, right? It could have been as simple as Boba Fett just flew from Cloud City to Jabba's palace, got paid, and decided to hang out. It really seemed like something Boba Fett would do, honestly. But we're going to find out what went on. And Charles Soule is a huge Star Wars fan, an incredibly talented writer, so I think he's the perfect choice to write the series. And this Alpha Prelude issues any indication, it's going to be one heck of a fun ride. And you know, as a kid, I kind of thought Boba Fett was cool too. Maybe not to the extent some other people like went nuts for him, but he was interesting enough. That scene in Empire when Darth Vader turns to them and there's like IG-88 and Bosk and Boba Fett, he was the coolest looking of the bounty hunters for sure. Maybe it was, you know, the mysteriousness of the helmet, that Mandalorian armor or whatnot. But clearly, you know, Lucasfilm and the creators of Star Wars knew that they were onto something, because when we start talking about the prequels, you know, they leaned into that whole mythos with Jango Fett and seeing Boba Fett as a kid and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, if anybody on the villain side other than, and you could make the argument that Boba Fett's not necessarily a villain, you know, he's a bounty hunter. But other than Darth Vader, Boba Fett probably the one rebellion character who could really carry his own title for an extended run. Obviously, Dr. Aphra is very popular as well. But she's an actual creation of the comics, not, you know, she's not a character from the movies themselves. So I don't know, other than Boba Fett, at least from the original trilogy, who you could really create a series about a non-rebellion character that could carry it. You know, you could make the argument for Darth Maul, but he's not in the original trilogy. I don't know. They
already did it though.
Yeah. They already have several Darth Maul series. I think they, even before Marvel had the property, Darth Maul had some series. I don't know anybody in the in the three latest movies. I don't even know what we call them, the sequels. I don't know, but 7, 8, 9. I can't think of anybody. And again, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world. I like it well enough. But I'd read a Boba Fett series. I don't know that I'd read a Darth Maul series. Obviously, I'd read a Darth Vader series. I did. It was great. Both the Charles Soule and the Kieran Gillen series were both great. I can't think of anybody in the the last three movies that I would read a series about. Certainly wouldn't read anything Kylo Ren. Even if Charles Soule did it, I know it would be good, but he's just not a character that really interests me.
Right.
And I struggle to remember the names of any of the others except for Huxley. Is that the other one of the other main villains? Obviously, I can't remember the name of the big giant guy who died in episode 8.
Snoke?
Snoke, there you go. I don't even know that I'd read anything about Snoke. So, anyway, all that to say, I like Boba Fett. He's popular. It's not a surprise, especially given the success of Mandalorian, that he's getting not only his own, they didn't just say, hey, let's have a Boba Fett series, mini. This is a whole event that's going to eventually cross over into all the Star Wars books. This is going to go on for 4 months. This is a big deal. So,
yep.
I don't know who else could carry this except for Boba Fett. So anyway, that's kind of my background and my thoughts on the character in general. What about you, Manny? Were you always a big Boba Fett fan?
He never really stood out to me that much. I like Star Wars fine. It's not, I'm more of a Trek guy.
Same.
I think I've said that a couple of times, but to say that I think this story is going to be super intriguing because of the fact that it's set up by the events of The Empire Strikes Back. You see the group of bounty hunters who are already after Han Solo, and now we get to see that it wasn't a walk in the park for Boba Fett to take his prize over to Jabba. And we'll talk about it in this issue, of course, but it's set up so wonderfully that I'm hooked now for not only the main storylines of the War of the Bounty Hunters, but I think I'm going to be picking up those side issues as well, so I can get the entire scope of it. It's really simple because we know what the outcome is going to be, but because it's with a character like Boba Fett, you're interested in the kind of adventures and mishaps he's going to get into, and that's what makes it so intriguing, right? Because you believe that he can make it, he's going to make it out one way or another, and even in Return of the Jedi, we see that he survived the pit with a
Sarlacc,
whatever pit, and we see him back in the Mandalorian. So I don't know of any other character that has this much versatility in Star Wars. And I was 7, 8, 9. I wouldn't look for too closely there because there isn't many there. That's the reason why that for it to launch Disney Plus and actually holding it all together is The Mandalorian, is Boba Fett. That's why the next Star Wars series is the Book of Boba Fett. That's spinning off The Mandalorian, because that's right now for Star Wars. That's the only thing being able to really say that it's carrying the franchise. We'll see how the next properties do. Hal Solo didn't do that well, and that's where we're at. I mean, right now we have Bad Batch, but I mean that's Dave Filoni's masterwork with Clone Wars and that storyline. So
what is still being upcoming, like the Kenobi movie?
Yeah, the Kenobi movie, Rogue Squadron.
Oh, that's right, Rogue Squadron.
No, Kenobi series. Sorry,
it's a series now. It's not a movie. Okay.
No, I don't think it's.
Is it still Ewan McGregor though?
Yeah, I believe so.
Gotcha. Well, you bring up a couple of interesting points. Part of the reason this interests me is because we don't have that fill-in. Like, when you think about forget about 7, 8, and 9. Forget about the prequels even, which can be sort of divisive as well. But those original 3 are still just as good, even though Lucas went back and messed with them. Because originally in Return of the Jedi, we had no idea that Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit. As far as we knew, that was it. But as far as we knew, as far as George Lucas himself knew, he wasn't going to make any more Star Wars movies.
Right.
That was it. But the thing is, despite all that, despite everything that's there in Empire and Return of the Jedi and even Star Wars, episode 4, there's a missing chunk of the story, right? We don't know. He just skipped forward. One movie ends with Han Solo frozen in carbonite. Boba Fett carts him off, and like I said, the next movie starts and he's already in Jabba's palace. There's a built-in kind of gap there. And the thing that Charles Soule, who loves these movies as much as any of us fans, probably more, the tone that he establishes right away in this book is one that suits that time frame and suits those movies really, really well. And it's one thing that Marvel did really, really well when they got the license from Dark Horse. Obviously Disney owns Lucasfilm, Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It made sense. Disney owns Marvel, that when the license ran out of Dark Horse, that they would pull this in. Controversial decision Marvel made was, hey, all the stuff that Dark Horse produced, it's non-canon. It's only the Marvel stories are actually canon, approved by Lucasfilm, blah, 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 whatever. And then they immediately launched the Star Wars series that was set after Episode 4, but before Return of the Jedi. They're trying to fill in some gaps. That's exactly what this is doing. So, really, really great. Let's go ahead and dive in. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you'll be able to see. Otherwise, you'll just have to listen along to what we're talking about. We get a great looking screen crawl on the first page. It says, Boba Fett, the galaxy's most dangerous hunter, claims the bounty of notorious smuggler and rebel officer Han Solo. Jabba the Hutt eagerly awaits Fett's delivery of Solo's carbonite frozen body to Tatooine, where the crime lord will exact his final revenge. Han Solo's debt is thus paid, but Boba is desperate for a payday himself. So I find that to be interesting. Han Solo's debt is thus paid. In order to pay his debt to Jabba, he's paying with his literal self. So I don't know that I would say that's Han Solo paying his debt, because it's so involuntary, but that's what the screen crawl says, regardless. So as we turn the page, we see that Hutt is in his ship, or Boba Fett rather is in his ship. He's flying from one place to another. He's speaking with somebody. He says, I have the package. The voice on the other end of the line, we learn, is Bib Fortuna, and he's confirming, okay, you have the package. You're bringing him. He is alive, right? Like, he's frozen in carbonite, but Jabba wants him alive. That's one of Jabba's stipulations. Jabba's got a cruel streak in him. We know that. We see what he did with Leia once he captured Princess Leia. He's not one to let grudges go, and really not to defend Jabba the Hutt, but when you're a kind of a mob boss, even an intergalactic one in the Star Wars universe like Jabba, you show any weakness, you're going to get devoured by your competitors. You kind of have to be ruthless. And all the way back in Episode 4, Jabba was warning Han Solo, hey, pay me what you owe me. And again, you can go look at the extended versions or George Lucas versions or whatever, where Jabba is, digitally added after, and it fleshes out that stuff a little bit more. So anyway, while Boba Fett is speaking to Bib Fortuna, the kind of the framework of the carbonite starts beeping. There's an alarm going off. Bib Fortuna's like, is that an alarm? And Boba Fett's like, I'm going to have to call you back. And you can see he's kind of panicking, which is an interesting thing throughout this book. And we'll talk more about it at the end. Charles Soule does a really good job of humanizing Boba Fett here. Like, there's this tendency to think of Boba Fett as like all powerful, never makes mistakes, knows everything. That's not the case here. He's,
well, that's simply the case because he never got screen time.
Yeah. People kind of invented how capable he was. So anyway, he says to himself, as this framework is beeping, he can't get it to stop. He says, nothing's ever simple. Right? It's not as simple as just picking up the body, taking it to Jabba, get paid. No, nothing's ever simple. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Mm-hmm. And Charles Soule himself, the writer, when speaking about the series and kind of promoting how fun it's going to be and what a wild ride, this is the panel that that Charles Soule featured on the tweet. It's going to be a wild ride. If you don't believe us, take it from Boba Fett. And then he used a screen capture of Nothing's Ever Simple. So on the following page, we get the credits. Big Giant Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha. Precious Cargo is the name of the first issue, written by Charles Soule, as I mentioned. Great art by Steve McNiven. Colors are by Laura Martin. Letters are by Travis Lanham.
Just so some people won't be confused, this is issue 0, not first issue.
Yeah, it's considered a prelude. It's War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha. It doesn't actually have any number on the front cover. It just says Alpha. But I would suggest if you're planning on reading if you're planning on following this event, you should pick up this book. There's also a director's cut.
Mighty bold of them to release the director's cut on the same day as the regular book.
Yeah, I got both myself. I haven't read the director's cut yet, but most of the time, director's cut is going to have the script.
No, it has the issue again in black and white, and it's just the panels. Like
it doesn't have this. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Charles Soule's not usually one to release his scripts. I love it.
There's nothing special about the director's cut. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna look at it again right now as we're talking because I don't want to be wrong.
Other than, well, I mean, Steve McNiven's art is definitely worth seeing.
The cover is dope. I will say that.
Yeah. Steve McNiven's art is definitely worth seeing in black and white, but that is a little disappointing. I like seeing the scripts because you can get sometimes more detail in the panel descriptions and whatnot. So
yeah, no, I was right. Besides some like cover art, it's really just all the artwork in black and white.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, to continue with the story, we're on Nar Shaddaa, which is the smuggler's moon. And Boba Fett has gone to somebody he knows. I guess he's some sort of medic or doctor, somebody who knows technology, so to speak. And Boba Fett is there to make sure that Han Solo doesn't die. Like, fix this alarm's going off. And this doctor's like, well, you got a problem. You know, carbonite, it's not really that stable. And it's especially not stable if you put something organic inside it. That's not what carbonite is meant to do. He's like, whose idea was this anyway? And we know it was Vader's idea. That's how he was planning on capturing Luke. Wanted to test it first. They tested it on Han Solo. Boba Fett's like, well, it wasn't my idea. And the doc's like, well, yeah, I could probably stabilize him so you won't keep having this problem, but you're gonna have to pay me, cash up front. Boba Fett's like, yeah, I don't really have any money right now. But like, this is Han Solo, he's worth a lot of money to Jabba the Hutt, and I'm on my way to go drop him off and get paid. And the doctor's like, yeah, Solo, he was always a pain, a lot of people always looking for him, but it's not really my problem. I don't work on credit, Boba Fett, that. So, money up front. And Boba Fett's like, dude, you know me, I'm Boba Fett. Like, we go back. And the doctor's like, yeah, that's exactly why I need the money up front. So you get some idea that there's some history there. Maybe Boba Fett has owed him money in the past or whatnot. So the Dr. Ragone, says, well, if you don't have money, maybe you can do me a favor, right? Maybe you can pay me in another way. And he talks about how he lost a bunch of money on a fighter that he had backed in the pits, and this Kanji Hutt, much like Jabba the Hutt. That's the Hutt means like kind of warlord or crime lord or whatnot. Well, these Kanji Hutts, they keep this one particular fighter protected, and this Doc Ragone has wanted revenge against her, but has never been able to do anything because she's protected, right? So Werman Lichter is her name, and that's the proposal that the Doc is saying here. Okay, you go and take out this Werman Lichter, and I'll stabilize Han Solo, and we'll call it even. And Boba Fett's like, I don't know if that's the best idea. I don't really need the Kanji Hutts after me too. Like, I got enough problems. And the Doc's like, well, you don't want to get involved in my problems. I don't want to get involved with yours. I'm not going to help you out with your Han Solo problem. So Boba Fett rather, he's kind of stuck in a tough place. Like he needs Han Solo alive. This is the only way he's got to do it. So the doc's like, yeah, I'll cover your entry fee. And Boba Fett's like, well, why do I have to go fight her in the pits? Can't I just kill her now? And the doc's like, well, you could, but, she is protected, and you'd have to get past like 1,000 kanji because they do protect her because she's their meal ticket. So fighting in the arena pits, that's really your best choice, because in the arena pits, anything goes, and then they're not going to be coming after you because you killed her, because that's, not necessarily fair fighting, but it's sanctioned fighting, I guess is the way you would say it. And Boba Fett's like, well, that might be true, but, I do have a reputation. This Mandalorian armor I wear is recognizable. Anybody's going to know who I am. And even if you think they won't come after me, I know they will. I don't want to get on their bad side. And the doctor's like, no problem, man. I got some spray paint. We'll paint you up. Nobody will recognize you. You'll be fine. And Boba Fett thinks about it for a minute. And he's like, it doesn't really have a choice. Again, he's like, all right, what's the ranking? What's her ranking in the arena? Like, how far do I got to go? And the doc's like, weren't you listening? Weren't you paying attention? She's the champion, man. Like, you got to go all the way to the top. So Boba Fett, again, having no choice, agrees to do this. So he goes and signs up, and he's painted all black. And there's a cover, an alternate variant cover, and that's the one I got of the regular issue. It's the John Tyler Christopher action figure covers that we've seen that Christopher's done for Marvel characters and Star Wars characters for years now. But the one for issue Alpha of War of the Bounty Hunters, it is Boba Fett all black, almost like Darth Vader-esque. So he goes, he checks in, he learns about the way it works. You win your first fight. Oh, and I should also say that Boba Fett signs up with the name Django, his father's name. Just Django, no Fett, just Django. So he learns the rules. So basically, you fight, and if you win, like, you get triple your entry fee, and you can choose to quit and keep the money, or you can fight again, and if you win, you get triple, and it goes on and on as you go up the system. So obviously, if you don't win, you could be dead. It's not really the safest sort of sport, if you will. So we soon see Boba Fett enter the arena. Again, great detailed art from Steve McNiven here. And over the course of the next couple pages, and again, I'm not going to go into detail on every single fight and all the dialogue and everything. We do want you to go and check out this book for yourself. But we get to see Boba. What's that?
He cuts heads off. Period.
Yeah, he cuts heads off. He kicks butt. It shows that, despite what I was saying earlier about Boba Fett not being all powerful, the guy can fight.
Oh, yeah.
Not to pull from the prequels too much, but Jango Fett did train Boba from a very young age to be a fighter. Like, he was never going to be anything else but a fighter. Bounty hunter, maybe not, but he was always going to be trained to be able to handle himself, to be able to fight. So over the course of the next couple pages, we get some really great fight scenes with him basically kicking butt and talking to some other people behind the scenes after winning his fights. And eventually, after winning several fights, he has the opponent he wants, right? He's up against Lictor, but it's clear that the people that run the arena pits really favor Lictor. She's always going to be the favorite against anybody that she fights. And maybe you don't necessarily make as much money betting on her as you would on somebody else, but it's kind of a sure thing. And in order to sort of help that along, it's like they set up, when she has fights against somebody, they set up the arena in such a way that gives her an advantage. So we do get to see what she looks like. And she's this like half humanoid, half spider creature. She's got 2 arms and 2 legs in terms of like humanoid arms and legs, but then she's got 8 like spider legs that come out of this giant growth on her back that looks like a spider body. And they set up the the pit with like all this wiring and like web looking, which really kind of suits her, and the platforms are suspended, and Boba Fett looks at her and he's like, okay, I guess we're going to do this. And as they start to fight, she even says, setup today reminds me of my home web. Wasn't that nice of them? So again, the people that run the arena are very much favor Worman Lichter and expect her to win and have bet on her. And the one thing that I'll say about the way the character looks, again, this time McNiven, I imagine, who probably did the character design on this, does a great job of creating a character that feels in tone, very much like she suits this era of the Star Wars universe. Like she feels like a character we would have seen had we gotten a movie in between Empire and Jedi. Would you agree with that, Manny?
Yeah, she definitely feels like something they would encounter. I would go as well. I'll leave some of my thoughts to the end of it. But yeah, that's in line with it, definitely.
So again, not to go into too much detail about the fight, but it's pretty awesome. Boba Fett uses his jetpack and stays kind of mobile and attempts to get the upper hand on Worman, but she uses her ability to spin a web to basically pull the jetpack right off of his back, which then leaves Boba Fett at a little bit of a disadvantage. He's just not as mobile. So now that he's kind of stuck on one of the platforms after losing his jetpack, Worman kind of moves in for the kill. And Boba Fett gets, even though he manages to inflict some damage, he sort of takes more damage from Worman than he dishes out. Because again, he's overmatched because she's got, I guess 12 appendages to his 4. But he manages to maneuver even as he's about to be devoured. And Worman's making some comments about, I'm sorry, I had to stab you. Your blood's leaking out. I want to save all that, juicy goodness, and basically, suck him dry like a real spider would do. But he manages to maneuver her in such a way that his jetpack is behind her as she's moving in for the killing stroke, and he uses that jetpack basically to win the fight. He explodes it. And everything sort of collapses. That part of the web collapses and the platform he's on collapses. And as it all falls, he maneuvers it all to basically land on top of her and smashes her, and that's how he wins. It's bloody. It's cool. When he goes to collect his winnings, he's covered in her blood. And he just says, I won. I'll take my credits. And of course, the kanji show up. And they just lost their biggest asset. They just lost their meal ticket. So before Boba Fett can even collect his winnings, they go, "Oh, we'll keep your winnings safe for you, because you want to make sure they're safe for your next fight." And Boba Fett doesn't seem to be too surprised about this. He says, "Oh, of course you guys show up now, and there's not going to be another fight. I won. I'm done." And again, these kanji huts are not going to just let it slide. They say, well, you cost us our meal ticket, right? We bet a lot on her, and you got to earn that back for us. Or you could just walk away. So Boba Fett figures that discretion is the better part of valor and says, you know what? We'll call it even. So he gives up all his winnings, which he obviously could use because he's broke right now. That's why the whole reason he got stuck in this mess, because he couldn't pay the doctor. So he says, keep it, and he walks off. So goes back to meet up with Doc Ragone now that he's fulfilled his part of the bargain. And as the scene shifts, we see the doctor getting zapped by somebody. We don't know who. And but these guys are basically there to steal Han Solo's body. Somehow they found out that Han Solo's body was there. And so the doc has managed to stabilize him. But before Boba Fett can basically get his payment, from the doc in the form of Han Solo being stabilized, the whole reason he went through all this trouble, the whole reason he risked his life and fought in the arena, by the time Boba Fett gets back there, the doctor's dead and Han Solo's body is gone. And wouldn't you know it, Boba Fett, or Jabba the Hutt rather, chooses that time to call or have Bib Fortuna call him. Yeah, hey Boba Fett, Jabba's just wondering where Han Solo's body is. He's kind of impatient. He wants his prize. You're supposed to have delivered it. He's getting impatient. And Boba Fett's like, shit. Like, what's he going to do? He doesn't even know at this point where Han Solo's body is. And he says, well, Bib, there's no way I'm going to disappoint Jabba. Just tell him it's going to be a minute. And so begins War of the Bounty Hunters. That's how it all starts. So if you're planning on reading it, like Manny said, this isn't 100% necessary, but it does set up, right? It's the first step in a bigger story. What is going to happen? Who got the body? Obviously, it's another bounty hunter. But what does that mean? And how's it all going to play out? And we do get a checklist in the back for May. There's another 4 issues coming in May, and it crosses over into a lot of the other Star Wars titles. And then obviously we also have the War of the Bounty Hunters series itself, which runs through October. But there's plenty of other crossovers into the Star Wars title, the Darth Vader title, Dr. Aphra title, the Bounty Hunters title. There's an IG-88 one-shot. There's a Bausch one-shot. There's a 4 Loam and Zuckuss one-shot. There's a Jabba the Hutt one-shot. So it's going to be a pretty robust story. And we're going to be here for it all. And I thought this was a great start. It was really fun. Like I said, the tone felt very much like a Star Wars movie, like it fit into the canon very, very well. And next issue of the actual series, War of the Bounty Hunters, doesn't go on sale till June, the second, June the 2nd, the first Wednesday of June. But we do have more preludes coming later this month with Star Wars 13, Bounty Hunters 12, Darth Vader 12, and Dr. Aphra 10. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I thought this was perfect. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Reminded me of my love of Star Wars, even though, I kind of agree with Manny that I've become more of a Star Trek guy as I've gotten older. I think when I was a kid, I liked Star Wars more, but kind of shifted as my taste have changed as I've gotten older. But yeah, I loved it, man. So what are your thoughts? And this is, I should also say, much like the MCU, I haven't watched a lot of Star Wars stuff in recent years. I haven't seen a single episode of Mandalorian. I don't know anything about how Boba Fett ties in. I know there's the Book of Boba or Book of Fett or something. I know it stars a Mandalorian. I know there's a baby Yoda. I know that Grogu. Yeah. I think I had heard that recently. Actually heard that of all things on a Rangers baseball broadcast. One announcer asked the other, do you know the significance of Grogu? And he's like, what are you talking about? But anyway, I say all that to say I don't know a lot of recent Star Wars stuff. Just what I've gleaned from being on social media. And I know the big reveal at the end, and spoilers if you haven't seen Mandalorian, I think Luke Skywalker show up in the last episode or something like that. That was a big thing. So Manny's going to have a different perspective on this, and he's going to bring some different insight into it that I may not have, just because I'm not the biggest. Neither one of us is the biggest Star Wars. I'm sure if we had a Star Wars expert on here, he could go, oh yeah, Doc Ragone showed up here and was mentioned in this novel and blah, blah, blah. That's the strength of the Star Wars universe. We're just not those guys. We're going to give it to you.
Don't want to be those guys.
Yeah, we don't really want to be those guys.
If you want to be those guys, listen to the Cantina. That's not us.
Yeah, there you go. But I say that to say we're going to give you the comic book perspective and a more casual fan perspective. And I'm going to come at it very much from a comic book angle. Manny's going to be able to bring some insight with what he knows from The Mandalorian. So that's just to kind of, let you guys know. And by all means, reach out on social media or leave comments, in the comment section below about things that we missed or may get wrong because we don't have that depth of knowledge. We're happy to have you educate us. But we're just going to
Absolutely.
come at it with as much knowledge as we have, which is admittedly not a huge amount when it comes to Star Wars. So anyway, let her rip, Manny. What are your thoughts on the episode? I think you were going to talk a little bit about Fett.
Yeah. So what I thought about it, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So like you were talking about earlier, filling in that gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It's a whole story that can be self-contained and just the adventure part of it, like I had mentioned also before, but it also blends in the Mandalorian in the sense that he's been getting into all kinds of trouble because of Grogu and because of just him trying to get his, like, he was a bounty hunter, and one of the bounties he ended up getting was the child, and it completely changed the way he did things. But in the meantime, he got into all kinds of trouble because of the damn kid. And we see now that Boba Fett went through similar situations. We're just trying to get this guy who's like frozen in carbonite. All you got to do is get him to Jabba, and no, it's just not going to work out that way. So it's really nice to see a blend between classic Star Wars, classic settings with some of the new Star Wars series that we're seeing with The Mandalorian. I think it blends really, really well. It kind of shows that Mandalorian mentality, that style of getting the job done sucks. And it's something that not only that all Mandalorian have to go through at one point or another for their bounty. And so that's I think what's the brilliant part of it. And it just so happens that just in this prelude, we get so much in it from the fact that he's on his way already. And if he's not melting, he's at Jabba's already. But like the beginning of the story says, and it sets it up so well, and I'm so glad that he used it on his tweet. Like, it's never that simple. And that's probably going to be the theme of it the entire time, because if you think about it, it went from, all right, I don't have, I got to get this guy fixed. I don't have money. And now it's like, I won, but I have money, but I can't get out. So now I don't have money because they let me walk away, but I killed the lady, but now I don't have Han. And it's like, great. so he's back to square one. And what makes it worse is that now that Jabba called, I'm sure the first things a Don does like that, somebody in that kind of power, reach out to other bounty hunters who he's more certain about getting the job done. And so it's going to cause way more trouble for Boba. And it's a journey that I'm very excited to go through with him, especially if it's being written by Charles Soule.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say that Jabba, he, like you said, he's the kind of guy that's got his ear to the ground. Who's to say Jabba didn't find out that Boba Fett stopped off on the smuggler's moon and he's having problems? So for all we know, Jabba sent those guys. Jabba's the one that told those guys the body was there, offered them less money than he was planning on paying Boba Fett. Hey, go pick up this package for me, not even telling him what it is. Who knows? And the other thing I think about with this not being simple, with the length of the series, running through October, we have the main War of the Bounty Hunter story, which Charles Soule says, you can just read that. You don't have to read any of the tie-ins. You can just read that. But if you want a richer story, you can read the tie-ins as well. We know this is going to be even if it's just the 6 issues of War of the Bounty Hunter, it's still going to be a very rich story, where obviously with the length of it, and Charles tweeting out that screen cap of Boba Fett saying nothing's ever simple. It's not like he's going to go track down these guys that stole the body and then get the body. Like, he'll track them down, but Han Solo's body will be somewhere else. It's going to be an ordeal for him. And the only thing I wonder if anybody at Marvel thought about calling this Star Wars Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, right? Because that's kind of the sense I got in the first, at the end of the first issue. you know. And if anybody's seen that classic Steve Martin, John Candy movie, it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies of all time. And poor Steve Martin it's a simple thing. He's just trying to fly from New York to Chicago, just wants to get home for Thanksgiving. And it's just one misadventure after
Yeah.
another. The bus breaks down, the train breaks down, uh, his wallet gets stolen, the rental car burns. Like, it's just one thing after another. And that's what Boba Fett is gonna have. He's I wonder if he'll get a John Candy like sidekick. Probably not. But yeah, he's Steve Martin, man. He's just trying to get to Jabba's for Thanksgiving with his and he's bringing Han Solo carbonite as his potluck dish, and he's gonna just encounter one thing after another. And I'm telling you, man, I'm all in for it. I can't wait to see, because this is the thing I was talking about right at the beginning. And Manny had made a really, really good point. Boba Fett is not this all-powerful, all-knowing, the best at everything kind of character that people have kind of built him up to be, because everybody liked him and we didn't have anything in canon or on screen time to really refute that. But we're getting that here. Like, the alarm starts going off and he's like, oh crap, I don't know what to do. Hey, Bib, I'll call you back. And now at the end here again, he's just like, oh man, here we go. It's gonna be a minute.
If you think about it, the alarm should have gone off though, because of the way he went out in Return of the Jedi. His jetpack got caught in the stick and he ended up in the pit. It's he's not as graceful as everybody makes him out to think, or he's not as great as everybody makes him out to think. If that's the way he went out, especially with the way that you haven't seen it, the way the current Mandalorian, and then him actually in this issue, Boba Fett used the jetpack and how versatile it is. We've seen it before, and so. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to have him have more personality than we've probably ever seen before, because this is I think that Charles Soule is really gonna make this his. And at the same time, I know that at the end of it there was that thank you to Lucasfilm, to Marvel, for really having his back on it, and having some notes and whatnot to make sure that it all ties in nicely. And I think it does. Like I was saying, it's classic Star Wars with that kind of Mandalorian feel that everybody loves right now from Disney Plus. And so I haven't been this excited for a comic book in a while, as far as an event. So this is going to be it for me for right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, you and I have been talking about covering some Star Wars comics. We know that there's a demand. You guys love Star Wars, and you want to hear us talk about the books, and we're trying. It's just a matter of having the time to do it. So we thought this would be the perfect time to jump on board and start covering some Star Wars comics for you guys. So we hope you all enjoy it. And yeah, I agree with everything Manny said. Charles Soule's the perfect guy to do this. And that's another thing that's so great about this Alpha Prelude issue. Nothing here seems out of character from what we know of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing here is like, oh no, he wouldn't act like that, whatever. But so he manages to keep him in character, and especially in the scenes where he's fighting in the arena pit, makes him seem, sufficiently badass. But just with those couple lines, like, gonna be a minute, and nothing's ever simple. He injects just the sort of humor, and you get a little bit, like you said, of Boba Fett's personality, but none of it contradicts anything that comes before. It doesn't feel out of character from what we know. It doesn't feel out of place. But I'm looking forward to, at the end of this War of the Bounty Hunters series, of having a much better idea of who Boba Fett is as a character. And I think that's the goal. So, yeah, I agree. I thought this was a perfect Boba Fett issue, perfect issue to launch the series. And Steve McNiven is an absolutely incredible artist. He's the perfect one to do this. He's worked with Charles before. He worked with Charles on The Death of Wolverine. He worked with Charles on Return of Wolverine. So I'm really glad that it's Steve McNiven and Charles Soule doing this, because it's spectacular. And I got to call out the colors of Laura Martin as well, especially those the fight scenes, the explosions, all that stuff is rendered really, really well. And the color, again, everything feels like we're in the Star Wars universe. Like I could just flip through this comic without reading any of the, the dialogue or any exposition or what have you. And it just feels, in terms of the line work and the setting and the colors, it feels like a Star Wars book. It feels like a Star Wars story. So kudos to the whole creative team. Yeah, I thought this was perfect.
So what I will also add about Steve McNiven's art, which is actually showcased in the director's cut, is we're not shortchanged, and I say that because oftentimes in some of these pieces it's easy to omit a background, and it's easy to just kind of leave it blank, really, because there's not much there. But there's several panels, several pages, well, actually the whole book, where the detail in the line work, the detail in the shading in the buildings, in the characters, in the suits, some of the up close of some of the characters, it's all there. And it's something that I really appreciate when I'm looking at a book, because it really goes to show how much more effort, more passion has gone into it. Just that page alone, right there. The detail in the background and in the characters and in that armor. I mean, just it's beautiful, and you see that, like I said, throughout the book, and then you add the colors to it, and it just makes for a spectacular book. So with the great story, now you have great art. It's a slam dunk, and I don't think I was expecting to check all the boxes, just because sometimes you can get away with it, and that's because of the property. But phenomenal, I think. This is easily got me very excited for the things to come. It's the perfect prelude book to get going to. Very, very good. Some of those scenes also where he's fighting the spider lady, I call it a spider lady, whatever. Again, just great detail in the background and the legs, adding that little hair and everything. The eyes, just beautiful to look at. And for that reason alone, I would suggest picking up the director's cut, because you can see it without the color, and you can see how much work really goes into it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. In the doctor's laboratory, in the fight, like, all the little details are great. And I particularly noticed after the fight, when Boba Fett goes to collect his winnings and he's covered with all the spider blood, how, I guess it's not sure, maybe Manny, because of the Mandalorian, but the little antenna thing or whatever that comes out the side of his helmet is all bent and smoking from the explosion. I'm like, that, McNiven's having fun. He's paying attention to the details. So that's really cool. So, all right. Well, I think that's it. I don't have anything else to add. Looking forward to the next chapter of this, which obviously will come out next Wednesday, and we'll cover it, even though it's just another prelude. It's not part of the actual series. Like I said, that doesn't start till June. But next week, coming out on May 12th, is Star Wars number 13. Luke Skywalker and Chewbacca head to Nar Shaddaa to hunt down Boba Fett and his prize. Because remember, that's the other part of this that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
The very end of Empire Strikes Back, we see that Lando and Chewie, flew off in the Millennium Falcon, saying, "Hey, we're going to hunt down. We're going to go find Boba Fett. We're going to go, rescue Han Solo." So that's the other part we didn't even mention. Boba is going through his whole planes, trains, and automobiles ordeal, trying to get Han Solo to Jabba while he's being pursued by the roster of Star Wars heroes.
Can you imagine they all show up? It's like, "Where's Han at?" He's like, "I don't know, man."
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If you find him, let me know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Anything else to add, Manny?
No, just we'll cover all the books in case you just want to do the the main story, but you know, if we're gonna do this we're gonna have to do it right, get all those details in.
Yep, 100%. So we hope you guys all enjoyed either listening to this on the podcast or checking it out on the LRM YouTube channel. We appreciate all your support as always. If you are checking it out on YouTube on the LRM channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll know when new content goes up. And obviously, you know, the more subscribers we have and the bigger platform we have, the more access we get, and we can bring you coverage of really cool stuff. So we appreciate the support as always, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.